Welcome to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate, a show that is geared towards talking about all things real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. It is season 5, believe it or not. We are at season 5 of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate, and I'm still excited to talk about real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And even so, I am even more excited to be able to have the experts come on the show to share their knowledge with you so that we can learn together about their platform and how it relates to real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands so that you are able to make a wise real estate decision while you are investing. Today, like every day that I come on this show, I come with another exciting topic. And today's topic is about building green building, right? And I have with me in studio a native of the soil who is going to share his expertise with us today. So if you are a person who have purchased vacant land or is in the process of purchasing vacant land, and even if you have an existing home, but you are looking at perhaps making some changes to make it more sustainable, then I believe that this is the right show for you today. So please share the page, tell someone that we are live, and it's all about Let's Talk TCI Real Estate today. So again, back to my guest, I am going to give you this opportunity to introduce yourself to the listening public.
Thank you. My name is Waylon Williams. I'm popularly known on the island as Dylan. I'm an architect. I'm the founder of GIA Innovative Building Designing. We are based on the island of North Caicos. Our office is due to open in the coming months, and we aim to offer our services throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I am looking forward to working with you in the future. So we're going to just dive right in, and I would like to ask you, what actually inspired you to want to take this path and look into designing green, sustainable buildings? I just want to say, because I know there are so many architects on islands, but just because you're focusing specifically on this, I know you do other things, but what motivated you to do this? What inspired you to do this?
What motivated me to become an architect and design green buildings is the fact that a lot of the islands in the Caribbean is considered to be sustainable, taking in fact northern Middle Caicos. Is considered to be highly sustainable, and I wanted to ensure that whatever is designed and placed on the island, it responds to the environment, the culture of the people. So I don't want to just design something that is aesthetically pleasing, but something that impacts the environment positively. And when you design, you don't just design a house that is beautiful. You design a house that respects nature and gives back to nature as well. You don't just design a house that takes from nature.
Well, I think that's a very good point. About designing something that gives back as well. So with that said, could you explain to me just in a little bit more details, just so we're all on the same page, a full definition of what does it mean to about a green design, and what are the importance of being sustainable when you are building?
The importance of being sustainable when you're building is to ensure that when you design a structure, it responds to the environment positively in a way, whereas, say, for example, you try to preserve as much of the natural elements as possible when it comes to natural daylight, natural airflow inside your building space. You want to design a space that is going to cross-ventilate the building in a way where you don't have to use a lot of mechanical energy. You want to make sure that the home is cost efficient in a way where you allow enough natural daylight in the space to, throughout the day, you don't have to actually flick on a light to turn on a bulb. Mm-hmm. You could just use the natural sunlight within your space. And for example, if you're in the living room, you want to be able to have the space ventilated properly so the air can flow through, and you don't have to worry about using central air or a mini split to cool your space.
And all of that is cost effective.
All of that is cost effective, and in the long run, you don't have to worry about a high utility bill monthly. So,
right. So then, let me ask you this question. You had said earlier that when you talked about getting into green building, you are thinking about, the concept of North Caicos and Middle Caicos, and of course that's where you're from, North Caicos, yes. Right? Do you feel like this type of sustainability actually should be carried out across the islands of the Turks and Caicos Islands? Because we always refer to North Caicos as a green island, and we always want to keep that type of closeness with nature, with North and Middle Caicos, but sometimes I think we've lost our way with the other islands. Do you feel like we need to take this scope throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands?
100% definitely agree. This is something that we should implement throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands. Because when you look at it, solar is one major key element here. A lot of people should think in the direction of going solar. Mm-hmm. We need to encourage the use of the natural elements here. Mm-hmm. We consider this place to be beautiful by nature, so our home should reflect that. Our structure should reflect an example of a home that is highly sustainable using the natural elements here in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
And I agree with you. I think we have enough natural elements that we can utilize. Exactly. We have solar, the sunlight for solar energy. Exactly. We have the wind for windmills. We have, I think we just have a lot of it. A lot of times we don't use it. I find that a lot more people are trying to get into the solar energy aspects of it because, of course, everyone is thinking about utility bill. But I think we need to be able to tap into more than that, just that, in order to make our homes a bit more sustainable.
Exactly. Because what I want to mention is, like, for example, Middle Caicos, a lot of the land up in that location is remote. Mm-hmm. And if you were supposed to introduce a development that is like off-grid, that would be a highly sustainable development. And that's something that our local authorities or those in higher places should look into these things and try to implement those sort of development here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, most especially for northern Middle Caicos.
Right. I think that's a really good idea. Great. So while I was searching to your website, I saw you had this quote on your site, and it just, you had me taken aback just for a little bit. You basically said that if the building is not affordable, then it's not sustainable. Yes. Can you please explain what that means? I thought that was really powerful, but go ahead.
The reason why I mentioned that is because a lot of times as a new homeowner, you want to build a project, but you have a very minor budget.
Right.
And let's say, for example, you go to a contractor and the contractor hits you with a bill for $1.2 million. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you can't meet that off the bat. I mean, like, for a 2-bedroom house, it shouldn't cost that much,
Right.
If the house is built sustainable, then you should be able to afford the cost to build it.
Right.
You should be able, not even when you complete the house, you should be able to maintain the house after so many years. It shouldn't cost you so much to maintain the house in terms of making it energy efficient and whatnot like that. So I believe that in terms of building and designing, everything should be cost conscious in relation to from drawing on a piece of paper, going to site and making sure that the right elements of material for building is taken into consideration, how much those material cost. All these should be taken into stock before you build something and deliver it to your client.
Correct. Well, what you said is quite true. I know that in real estate, a lot of times people come to us saying that, hey, I want this size land because I want to build this size home. But when you start thinking about it, it's like a big home doesn't mean that that's the right thing for a person, because you have to think about being able to sustain it, to be able to maintain it, once you've already built it. And I think the size sometimes fools a lot of people, and you get into these big homes and then you're not able to maintain the cost and the upkeep of carrying these homes. And so what you're saying is quite true. If it's not, if the building is not affordable, then it's not sustainable. You have to be able, at the end of the day, to be able to maintain what you have already created. Could you just point out for us a few things as to what dictates a building to be considered sustainable?
What dictates a building to be considered sustainable when you can control the amount of light that can penetrate within a building space, the amount of wind that flow through it, and most especially when it's being built in terms of the material you use. Say, for instance, a lot of the materials that are used to build houses here are imported, you know? And from an architectural standpoint, it's good to encourage clients to build with what's readily available here on the island, because the minute you do that, it reduces the cost for construction because the stuff here is already available. But when you start to import, that adds on to the budget and so forth. So taking these steps into consideration can help mitigate costs, and it can also allow the whole phase of the design to be cost effective. And not just cost effective, but also sustainable, by making sure that, say, for example, you have like an opening. That opening should be wide enough where it allows the right amount of light, but you don't want to increase the opening size where it allows too much solar gain in, and then you have to think about a way how to control some of that solar gain within your space. So there's a balance.
Yes, a balance. So let me ask you this question. When you're building something from scratch, it's easier to say, let's make this more eco-friendly, let's make this more sustainable. But what happens, what can a person who currently has an existing home, what can they do to make their living space more sustainable, more eco-friendly, more connected to nature? What can that person do if they want to start moving in the direction of going green?
Well, I know, for instance, I would take North Caicos as an example. There's a lot of existing buildings there that has been poorly designed, and where you have like a lot of small windows, don't have the proper coordination of the building placed on site and so forth. So anyone who wants to go into the direction of making their homes more sustainable in terms of reducing the cost of their power monthly, they would have to think about demolishing openings and trying to make it a bit more open to allow much more airflow, to allow much more daylight. And that's the situation where you have existing structure. You're going to have to, it's going to cost you to move into that direction, but it's a good step into being sustainable. So you'd have to do demolition work, and then you'd have to integrate more bigger openings to allow natural airflow and so forth. So that would be your first step into that direction.
Right. So, I mean, one time I had an architect on the show, and he mentioned something similar to what you are saying about now we need to move into having more open concept plans. I know most of us, I'm trying to use the correct word because I don't want to, like a while back, like most of our parents and their parents, most times they built, like you say, some of the older structure in North with a traditional style. That's the word I'm looking for. More of the traditional style homes, and we have like a living room with a wall and a bedroom with a wall, and we have the kitchen with the wall. But we now need to break down some of those walls and have more open living space, because this helps us with bringing that light into the home and being able to make it a bit more affordable and sustainable, just to maintain everything as well.
Exactly. And not to cut you across, the pro about that is because it also allows you to control costs in a way, because the less walls you have, you don't have to worry about whether that being a structural or a little bit, whether that be a false wall or a structural wall, because the minute you start to eliminate the walls that you don't need, it brings down the cost. But if you have so many separation within your space, that's going to boost up the cost, whether that's a timber wall or that's a metal frame wall, it's going to add the cost. So you need to take into consideration as how to make it minimalist as possible, but at the same time where you don't introduce so many materials within the build.
Okay, so let me ask you this, just going on the outside a little bit. I know that according to the planning rules and regulations, you're not supposed to completely clear down a parcel of land when you are building. And but we have a lot of people who they feel like, okay, I need to see where I'm building in order to build. They should only be clearing down the place on which they're going to construct. I say that because I feel like we should be able to preserve a lot more of the natural vegetation. So tell us from sustainability, from an eco-friendly standpoint, why is it important to be able to incorporate the natural landscaping to help the holistic approach about a sustainable building?
I would say this. We have quite a few indigenous plants here. And it's important that you try to preserve those plants. And as an architect, from my standpoint, I think you only should remove what needs to be removed. And another point I would like to mention is that the minute you clear down your whole entire land, you now create another problem for yourself, because now you have to add a lot of fill, and then if you want to re-landscape, that's another cost. You have to now go buy another batch of plants, whether if you want to do lawn, it still adds cost. But if you did lay the building out in a way where you only need to remove the area to position the house and for the guys them to mobilize on site and just leave what doesn't need to be touched, then you save a lot more. And then not only do you save, but you also respect the environment. You know, you keep a fraction of history as well with the site. Because if you completely bulldoze a site, then you don't know the history that was once there before. So you're erasing a whole identity of that site. So it's important to leave a fraction to remember where this site was at one point in time in their life.
Right. So just going back to the beginning, when you were talking about how you got into designing green, I mean, at what point did you really captivate, or at what point did you really start focusing so much on the environment? I'm only saying that because, you know, sometimes us all living around here, I think we all have that breaking point where we have like an epiphany moment and we feel like, okay, this is it. We need to respect the environment. When did you reach that moment and you want to decide something like this?
I gotta thank my mom. She's a fisherwoman. She's locally known as Da.
Okay.
When I was a young boy growing up,
You're still young. But go ahead.
she used to take me out, and she used to take me points like Spanish Point, Cowan Key, Highest Key, all these areas that are like completely remote. The only way you get there is by taking a vessel, a boat. That's the only way you would see these areas. And when I used to go there, it used to be so pristine, beautiful, sustainable, and there's so many wildlife, different species of birds. You know, you have butterflies, and you feel at peace, you feel a calmness. And then when you go there, you say to yourself, I want to maintain this, I want to keep this going, I want this to be a reflection of what Turks and Caicos is. So in that moment, it made me to realize what real architecture is. It doesn't just lies in the beauty of a building, but also the topography of the land and how the land is formed, how is it well kept. You know, like when you go to a space where there's so much lush of greeneries and birds and whatnot, you get the feel of how a space or how a surrounding should feel. You know, the air is different. So
basically, you're just passionate. You are so passionate about making sure that every design you put forward, it captivates the environment and making sure it be eco-friendly towards it.
Exactly. And you know, I always feel like when you design something, you should encourage your clients to, you know, give respect to nature, because that's where you get oxygen from. You know, trees are very important. You don't want to chop down every tree, so respect a tree. You know, a tree is way older than you, so don't just destroy it.
Yes, sure, yeah. So, I mean, it's really good having this conversation, but I know this is your field, and I would like to ask you, is there anything that we should know or the audience should know about, you know, designing eco-friendly or in this field of work, what they should be looking at or not looking at? Because just say for myself, I have a piece of land I'm looking to build, but sometimes what are the guidance you're going to give me so that I could know what I need to do in terms of achieving that goal of trying to be as sustainable as possible?
That's a really good question. From my standpoint, I would say think about your surroundings. Think about how you want to live, how you want this space to feel when you develop it before approaching an architect and asking them to design your house. Think about what it is you want after designing this project, and would this architect be able to deliver what you require. And at the same time, when you think about that, think about how would your wants respond to the environment. Turks and Caicos, beautiful by nature. Would it signify that meaning? Would it be related to the cultural identity of the people, and would it respond to the space that you're going to build.
Okay, sounds good. So, Mr. Williams, it was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
You know, time just runs and goes so fast when you're talking. But I just want to give you one last opportunity. If there is anything you want to say to the audience, and also I would like for you to just remind them about the services that you offer. Yep. And provide them with your contact information, please.
If you're interested in contacting GIA, you can visit my website at www.giatci.net. My contact information is 443 GIA. That's 443-4420.
Great. And your services?
My services is that we design from inception to completion. If you require a full set of plan, you can contact us. If you're looking for a cost-effective way to build, you can contact us and we'll be ready to assist you.
Great. And even though you're situated on North Caicos, you are available throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands.
That's correct.
Well, thank you so much. Well, again, like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. And definitely, I will be contacting you to do some business with you because I do believe in going green as well. And what you are doing, continue to do so, okay? So and for your listening audience, definitely, if you have any questions or comments, always feel free to put it in the comment section. And we will be sure to answer those questions for you. So until next time, I say to you, stay safe and remain blessed. Have a very good evening. Thank you. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate and not that of Keller Williams TCI or any of its affiliates. Any action you take upon the information provided on this show is strictly at your own risk, and Let's Talk TCI Real Estate guests or hosts will not be liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of the material. I am not an investment advisor, broker, or dealer. Preview.